Right, guys. Very good afternoon to you. Um, I've had a problem before. I just came up with a message that live streaming is not available at this moment in time. So I don't know how long this is going to last, but we're going to make the best of it. Can I ask you to just announce yourself so I can have like a record for the register? That's all. So when you come on here, um, just say hi or something so that your name appears. And if somebody else is watching with you, just mention their name as well in the text. Right. I'm just gonna just one moment. I'm just gonna try to get on my second computer into the chat room. Like a record for the register. That's all. So when you come on. Okay. So it's just to get some feedback. Okay. Let's have a look. Who have we got here? Callum, Declan. Hi, Amy. Hi. Georgie, hi. Harry, nice to see you. Hayden, hi. Brett, I've got Luke. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, let's see how many people have we got online. Right. Charlie, hi. I can see you on. We've got 9 people. Okay, we're going to wait a couple of minutes and then we're going to make a start. So this is all about 309 utilities, and it's a summary. There are 2 summaries, and it's pretty much a recapture of the stuff we did before in the last block, but obviously aiming at the assessment. So just making sure that everything is under, everything you need for the assessment is there for you. And we've covered everything. Sam, hi, great to see you. How many people are we? We need to be about 13, I think. We are on 10 now. Right. Okay. Okay, Joe. Thanks. Thanks for coming on as well. It's okay. As long as I know who is here, so that's all I need to know. Ross is here as well. Okay, got this. Nick's there as well. Got it. Okay, I think we are all together. Okay. Right, this presentation is going to take about an hour. I'm going to try and keep it sweet and short. The next presentation probably about half an hour, 30 minutes, and then we've got one more presentation where I just email all the paperwork to you, and I'll just go through the assignment and what you need to do. The good news, bad news, I don't know. All it is a pass criteria. So once you've hit the points, once you've hit the criteria, you're through. So you don't have to worry too much about it. Hi, Corey. Okay, got it. Okay, it's fine. And anyway, that's the right way. If you are watching and you can't, you haven't got a YouTube account or so, which I don't expect you to have, but just text, WhatsApp, whatever, one of your mates, and then at least I've got some record for the register. I think everybody's here, though. I can see from the viewer numbers. Okay, let's have a look. If you remember the first time when we started off this utility session, we were looking at pipes, and pipes had different colors. So the pipe marking, we've got a couple of examples, and you can see them here. First of all, it's the standard is 1710. That's a British standard for pipe marking, which is in use. And again, you need to know this number and make the presentations available, so you'll be able to extract all the information from those presentations when it comes to it. The examples, couple of examples. Water, the pipe is green, and you see this weird number at the end of it, which is 12D45. Yeah. And that number is just the color number for for the code. So it's not any green, but it has to be it has to be a green that's determined by the British standard. And that has to be labeled on all pipes. For steam, we've got silver gray, and the color is 0A03. Air is light blue, which is 20E51. Brown is 06, C39, and gas is yellow, 08, C35. Now, for this assessment, obviously it's not an exam, so you can use your notes, you can use all the resources you have to try and write this down. So it's a bit like a write-up, which is supposed to be for a few hours, to sit down to do a write-up. And I've agreed with Gary that you can do this. I'm going to talk about this when we get to there, but we've got ways of sort of dealing with that and dealing with the write-up. So normally you should do it with us in class, but there are other ways of doing it as well. Okay, I've got a list here, and that's just again a copy from the internet with all the different colors. And you can see the colors here, and you can see the green. I'm not sure how well it can get through. It's not, any odd green, but it's got a particular shade. The same with the yellow, which is some sort of weird yellow. And then we've got an orange. Actually, I'm not sure whether I'm colorblind, but the orange looks very much like a yellow to me. I don't know. But anyway, you can see there are different tones of color, and these determine what the pipes are used for. Okay. Got a few more colors, safety colors. One is for fire, water from a public supply, water from any other source. And then we've got a warning color. Then for refrigeration, we've got a color as well. And then we've got one for medical gases and refrigeration, which is, again, the color you can see here. So pipes have all been labeled with those colors. Again, all you need to do when it comes to the assessment is talk about this a little bit. Why are we doing this? Where is you think about work? Where do you have pipes? Are they labeled in this format? And what do the labels look like? It's not the whole pipe that's got the color, but there are color strips or color identifiers at certain points of the pipe. And just talk about this, just from your experience, a little bit general, and that's all it is. So you don't need to go crazy. It doesn't need to be an A4 page, just a paragraph on how these colors are used, and they'll be asking for particular colors for particular pipes, and you just need to identify them and then comment on it a little bit. Okay, the next one is ignition temperatures. So we talked a bit about combustion and stuff blowing up, and everything has got a certain temperature when ignition will take place, and we've got a couple of them, which I'm sure for Hovis, flour and grain dust might be quite interesting. So we've got a 490, 510 degrees. Aluminium as well, it's quite high. PVC, high as well. I'm quite surprised how high it is for ignition until it burns, and so on. Okay, so it's just something to know about ignition temperatures. We've got gases as well. We've got methane, propane. They are probably the most used gases around. So it's 437, 465 degrees. That's the ignition temperature. And then we've got, what else have we got here? Coal gas, town gas, 649, and so on. So that's all it is. Brett has got a question. Is this sum in pass or fail? Yes, it's pass or fail. So it's pass or fail. So it's not that hard. You just make sure that you answer all the questions. That's all it is. Make sure you answer them correctly. So otherwise it gets bounced back to you. Worst case scenario is you get a reset where you have to get a whole different set of questions, and you have to do the whole write-up. So it's just a lot of work. So the best thing is make sure it's right first time around. It's not that hard to do. If you've taken notes in class, I'm going to make some of the presentations available, if not all of them, and so you should be able to just do it based on the notes you have taken in some of the presentations. Okay. The next thing is about combustion as well. And this is lower explosive level, and that's upper explosive level. And this is about combustion. Yeah? And so you need to have the right mixture between air and gas. So, for example, if the mixture isn't right, if it's either too thin or too rich, it just won't combust. And it's I did some experiments, and this is sort of my wasted youth, really. I was trying to find out whether petrol would actually burn. My neighbor told me, he's an old miner, and he said, if you take a match and you have got a glass full of, and don't try this at home, make sure if you do it, you're well protected. If you take a match and you light a match and you've got a glass of petrol and you stick a burning match in it, it'll actually snuff out. Yeah? And the idea behind it is that petrol itself is not going to burn, but only as it evaporates, the gases of petrol are burning. Yeah? So if you take a match and you take the match inside petrol, little glass filled up with petrol, it'll actually snuff out. I tried it out and it works. It does go out. Yeah. And I think the way I got around it, I wasn't sure. I was going to a petrol station. The petrol station, somebody filled up the car, supposedly with diesel, and I got the impression that they put some petrol in because it didn't run right. I had a diesel car, and I wasn't sure what happened. Did he do it? Did he not do it? Is there something wrong with the engine because it just wasn't running right? And my neighbor, the old miner, he said the easiest way is just to, extract some of the fuel, put it into a glass, and if it gases, if the gas comes out, it'll actually light up. The fumes will burn. But that's what it's all is. You need to have the right mixture of air and the gas, yeah, or the fuel itself to have combustion taking place. Right, I'm going to move on. There's a flammability range of methane, and you can see this here. Just follow the mouse. So you've got like the lower level, and if it goes down below 5%, nothing is going to happen. So it doesn't explode. So if you add a spark or something, it just won't do anything. It won't burn. It's too lean. If it's within between 5% and 17%, it'll actually explode and it'll combust. If it's over 17%, nothing is going to happen. Right, I'm just looking at the chat room. Hi Ross, any questions so far? Okay. Right. So that's quite important, yeah, with the explosive range, that you need to have the right mixture. If it's too lean, if it's too rich, nothing's going to happen. If it's within the range, it'll explode, it'll combust. So the amount of oxygen is very important. In the olden days, again, what we used to do is we had like little meters, and you could sort of little sniffer probe, and you put it in the back of the exhaust, and it was just looking for, I'm not sure whether it was carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide or something, but one of the elements. And you would then tune in the carburetor for just the optimal mixture. So if you did it a little bit too lean, the engine would run hot, but you got reasonable performance. If it was too rich, didn't run quite as hot, run a little bit cooler, but you got possibly a bit more torque in it or something. That was something which I remember sort of when I was young, like 100 years ago, that this was the kind of stuff we were doing. Today it's very difficult because it's all done through the engine management unit, through the EMU or ECU, engine control unit. Right, just like another fancy picture, I thought I'm just going to stick it in anyway. Limits of flammability, so you've got natural gas in this instance, and it goes below 5%, but only goes up to about 14%, where it lights up. Okay. Right, again, just like a diagram where you've got oxygen, methane, and where you've got your limits of flammability. And this is just the mixture between the three of those gases. Oxygen methane and nitrogen. Nitrogen again is not explosive; it's just a passive agent, doesn't do anything. Whereas oxygen is it's very reactive chemical. Okay, again, what you need to know for the exam, for the assessment, is this graph here. The explosive range and you know, the range between the volumes and so on. Okay, single phase systems. That's the next bit we're going to look at. What is the typical voltage for a single phase motor? How many wires would you have to connect to a single phase motor? What are the colors of the wires? And what is necessary for a single phase AC motor to start? And I'm going to leave this up for how long? About 5 minutes, 1 minute for each question. Please don't do it in the chat room. Give me the answers in the chat room, but I want you to just look at this question for 5 minutes and come up with the answers. And then in 5 minutes, tell me what the answers are. What's the time now? We've got 18 minutes past 2 o'clock, so at 2:23, I'm going to pester you again. If you've got any other questions, feel free to shoot them out. And I'll just have a cup of tea now. So. Again, please don't do the answers in the chat room. Let everybody just think about it a bit and come up with the colors, the number of wires, the colors of the wires, old code, new code, and what is necessary for single phase AC motor to start. Four more minutes. And this means I can have a cookie as well. Four more minutes. Three more minutes and then two more minutes and then we'll open the floor. One more minute. Okay, that's it. Let me just type it in. I realize there's about a minute delay. So what are the answers? Press enter. First question, typical voltage for single-phase motor. Come on. We've got 3 wires, yeah, some, spot on. 240 volts. What's the peak voltage for 240 volt? Does somebody know? So that's RMS, root mean square, peak voltage. Blue, brown, yellow, green. Okay, spot on, Sam, thanks. And the last one is capacitor, spot on. Okay, we got this. Peak voltage, somebody. What's the peak voltage? When we've got 240 volts RMS, which means root mean square. What is the peak voltage? Nick, 230 volts, spot on. European standard, yeah. Yes, that's right, capacitor for the last one. 230, that's on. Okay, it's like one is the old British standard, the other one is the modern European standard. All they've done is they've just changed the percentages, so the tolerances on the system, to unify the European and the British system, which probably in a year to come may be history. So I'm going to be interesting as well whether they're going to go back to the 240 volt system or they're just going to leave as is. I guess I would say they're probably not going to change anything. Got bigger problems to worry about. Okay, again, voltage, VRMS, yeah, VRMS. I'm just going to type it down so you see it before I actually talk about it. VRMS times 1.4 1 is equal to V peak. Yeah. So that should come up with 339 volts based on 240 volts. Just a conspiracy, yeah, spot on. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, right, I hope you're still there. The answers are on the next page. Typical voltage, 230 volt RMS. Yeah. If you say 240, by the way, in the assignment, I'm not going to knock you for it. Yeah. It's just a academic question. The difference is they're single phase, they're 3-phase, and the voltages are very different, obviously, for both of them. And that's the main thing which I want you to work out. 3 connections required: live, neutral, and earth. Live is brown, neutral is blue, yellow is green. Do you know the old colors? What are the old colors? Does anybody know the old colors? Red and black, spot on, yeah. Red and black. Thank you, Sam. Right, and the capacitor, it's for starting. So there could be some other methods as well, which are, what are they called? I can't think of the name. Shaded pole, that's what it's called, a shaded pole, to generate a little bit of a phase shift for the thing to start off. Yeah. And the other one is just a capacitor, starting capacitor. They generate a phase shift, and that sets the motor off. Once the motor is rotating, it doesn't need the starting capacitor anymore. So very often there's a centrifugal switch to try and take it out of the circuit. So, right, next one, three-phase power. What is the typical voltage for a three-phase system? What is the phase difference between each phase in degrees? How many wires do you need for a three-phase system? What is the purpose of the neutral wire in a three-phase system? And what are the colors L1, L2, and for L3? Okay, I'm just going to open up the floor right now, so feel free to answer straight away. Just fire them out. So I'm not going to wait for 5 minutes. But let's go for it straight away, so we can get through it quicker. Typical voltages for a three-phase system. Nick, thanks for that. Thanks, Ross. Yeah, red, yellow. It's the old one's red and black. Yeah, not blue. Red and black. Yeah. Ross. Okay. Going back, three-phase power. Some answers. Some of the others as well. Go on if you haven't fallen asleep yet. Give it a go. It's no problem if it's not right. Typical voltage for three-phase systems should be easy. 415, yeah. What's the European voltage? It's a bit lower than that. But that's normally what you find is you find sort of a voltage label for 415 volts. Brown, black, grey. Yeah, I think you're right. 120 degrees, spot on for phase shift, yeah. Okay, what else have we got? What other questions? How many wires? How many wires do you need for a three-phase system? Did somebody answer that? Yeah, it's about 400. It's 380, 400. That's the lower voltage. 4 wires, okay. Yeah, you can get away with that. Okay. Okay, let's move. Any more answers? Have you got everything? Purpose of the neutral wire. Did somebody say purpose of the neutral wire? Nick, you said it's for an imbalance system. That's right, yeah. So if there's an imbalance in the system, it's right. It's another reason why you might want a neutral wire in your three-phase system. There's one more reason. We're going to look at this reason in a minute. Yeah. Neutral is for imbalance. Okay. Let's go through the answers. I'm aware that I'm sort of a minute ahead of you, so I have to wait for a minute with your answers. Earth, okay, again important. Yeah, should be in a system. So if you've got a three-phase system, you can get away with 4 wires, like 3 lives and an earth, or you could have 5 wires, 3 lives, a neutral and an earth. Okay, normally the neutral is not necessary. If it's a balanced system for a motor, you just need 3 live wires and then obviously your earth connection. Okay, typical three-phase voltage is 315, 380 volts AC. Mostly you find 415, warning labels 415 volts. And that is just from phase to phase. So it's not from phase to earth or phase to neutral. That's phase to phase. Yeah. From one phase to another phase. The old colors are red, yellow, and blue, and the neutral is black. And UK new colors are brown, black, and gray for L1, L2, and L3. And then you've got your neutral wire, which is blue. Yeah. So it's all a little bit confusing when you look at sort of the wiring code. It's important because there's still, I'm sure, both systems around, especially when you've got machines which are over 20 years old. They might still be wired up with the old wiring code. Earth obviously is yellow-green. I'm going to go to the next one. Yeah. Three-phase answers. A neutral wire in a three-phase system will not carry any current except when there is an imbalance in the system, and this is what you said, Nick. That's right. And well said it, Nick. Yeah, you mentioned this. So if there's an imbalance in the system, that's why we need a neutral wire, and then the current may go into the neutral wire. And if a phase is used as a single phase supply, so it can be done that you've got a three-phase supply system, and you've got three-phase current into a factory, and you take one phase off, and you just use it for a different purpose. You power up something else. And we're going to see in a minute a diagram where this is actually happening. Where you've got a three-phase motor, and to control the motor for the controlled circuitry, we take power only of one phase, and we run the control circuitry on 240 volts, whereas the motor itself is run on 415 volts. So we're going to see this in a minute, how this is done. But it's done normally as well. From what I understand in the domestic supplies in the UK, when you have got a wire running down the street, you've got a bunch of houses on one phase, and then they connect the next 3 4 houses on phase number 2, and then the next 3 4 houses further down on phase 3, and then they start with phase 1 again. And I'm not sure why, but there's some reason for it. It's more efficient, it improves efficiency somehow, and so this is what they're doing. Yeah, what they're doing in just for the domestic supply. But it's unlikely for a domestic house, for a domestic dwelling, to have three-phase power. In Germany, it's quite standard to have three-phase power, and it makes things a bit more difficult. So when you go with a British mindset and you look at some installations in Germany, and you don't realize that there's three-phase power going into every house, so everything could be run from a different phase. And I think in my mother's house, it's only the cooker. It's only the cooker that's actually a three-phase that runs on 3 phases. Everything else is just run from one phase only. But anyway, that's how it works. Here we've got an example, and I want you to sort of look at this diagram for a little bit and check this out and figure out how this diagram works. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time, that's quite important, and then I'm going to talk you through how this works. The first thing I want you to notice is we've got 3 phases going in. We've got live 1, live 2, live 3. Then we've got a neutral wire as well. And you can see here that there's some current taken off one phase. And so at this point we would only have like 240 volts. And then we've got the neutral wire on the other side of it. So that means all the circuitry here, like those 2 bulbs and the contactor here, the contactor control, is running on 240 volts, not on 415 or 230 volts. Okay, right, just try and figure out what each item is, what do you think they are, what is A, what is B, what is C, and feel free to give me some answers here on the unit. Obviously you know what these bits here, what they are, and again we've got a switch here, we've got a couple of switches here. Some of the circuit doesn't make an awful lot of sense to me. I'm going to talk you through in a minute, and I'm going to show you what the problem is with the circuit. So the first question is, what is A, what is B, what is C? How does this correlate with those items here? So we've got something here, we've got something there. We've got a stop, start, and an emergency stop. We've got a bunch of bulbs that give us an idea of what's happening with the motor. Okay, how does it work? Okay, what is A, what is B, and what is C? Okay. Any suggestions? Let me just type it up. And I've forgotten to put my phone on silent. Let me just deal with that. Right, have we got some answers? A circuit breaker. Which one is the circuit breaker? A, B, C. A is a circuit breaker, okay. B is a conductor. Okay, what is C? Overload. Okay, spot on. Really, really well done. Yeah, spot on. Okay, right, this is the typical sort of diagram for a three-phase motor. And okay, I've put all the stuff in there. So when you look at this diagram, we've got 415 volt, which is from phase to phase. Obviously, it's only from each phase to neutral. We are just looking at 240 volts. And so what we get here is we've got this could be a manual circuit breaker. Yeah? So you would have like a little lever or something, and you make a contact to the motor. Once it's turned on, then we get power to the control circuit here. So all this does in essence is just control the contactor, have like an emergency stop set up, so you can stop the whole thing by breaking the power to the contactor and the contactor going into the off position. And we've got some lights as well. So we've got the green light to just let us know that the motor is on or it's turned on, power is going to the motor. And then we've got the red light for overload. So when the overload, which is C, when overload kicks in, that switch is turned off. That switch is turned on. And at that point we know, we've got an overload problem. The overload has kicked in. The power to the motor is broken and the red light is on. So that means the contactor may still be turned on, but the red light, and so we've got a green light here, because there's power going to the contactor. The overload has kicked in, the red light comes on, and obviously power to the motor is interrupted by the overload protection. Okay. Right, guys. Are you okay with this? Are you okay with how this works? Now, this is a diagram you will have to explain. It's a standard diagram which you see when you look at three-phase motor or three-phase motors connected. You will get something similar to this, to this making here. And are you okay how this works? You would have to explain this for the assessment. One thing which doesn't make a lot of sense is this line here, yeah. And this line here, so you either didn't need the bottom connection, or you don't need this leg here, okay? Because it doesn't really do anything. There's no reason to have this line down here. Yeah, so just something to bear in mind. Yeah. But okay, emergency stop. So you press the emergency stop, then the contactor doesn't get any power, and it's going to be disabled. Yeah. So the whole thing just knocks off. You've got, when you activate this one, it'll break the circuit. Yeah. So that's again your overload, it'll break the circuit. Actually, what I said is correction, the green light won't be on because that's part of the overload switching. Overload kicks in, knocks out the contactor straight away, and you get the red light coming on, so you know what's happened. So the green light won't be on. Yeah. What else have we got? We've got push to brake, so that's a manual stop, and then we've got your starting button, and this is push to make. So you press this button, you activate the contactor, and then the motor will be activated. There's no latch in here as such. I thought that this thing might be some sort of latch, but can't see that. Is this supposed to be a latch? So you plug this one in, that's activated. maybe it could be a latch, and in that case it would make sense. So if this is just like a push to make button, so you push it in and resets itself, then this one is activated, this one here, and this will power up the relay. In that case it would make sense. Okay, let me just go through it one more time. Okay, so you've got a manual switch up here. So this is a manual circuit breaker to provide power to the whole circuit. And then B, that's A. B is your contactor, and C is your overload protection. The overload protection is just giving you a signal. And what's happening is when you press a button, the start button, so it just makes contact for a short time. So the contactor is activated. It'll close all the contacts in B. It'll close KM1, this one here. The green light will come on, and at the same time it'll keep the contactor going. So at this point you've got a latch which goes from there to keep the contactor activated. Okay, so then you've got a stop button. You press this button. There's no more juice going to the contactor, no more power going to the contactor. The contactor goes in the off position. KM1 will turn off, and the motor will be permanently turned off. Okay, press the start button again. Motor is running again. Then we've got the overload here. So if the overload is if this unit here senses an overload, that switch here is going to be activated. So C will activate and break the circuit, and then here C will activate and give a signal. So it'll make the circuit here. So the red light will come on. And then we've got the emergency stop, same thing as with the stop button. It's just push to brake. So you push the emergency stop button, and then there's no more power going through, so KM1 is going to be turned off, which is normally kept close by the contactor. There's no more power going to the contactor, and the whole thing will turn off. Right, did you get this? Let me just type this because of the delay. Right, just waiting. Yes, no. Simply yes, simply no will do. Do you want me to go through it again, or are you okay with this? I'd like to think so. Okay. Anyway, when you see the circuit, it's just looking at the definition of what each bit is, and then it should be fairly straightforward. You can probably work your way through. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Right, moving on. Compressed air safety. It's a little bit about compressed air you need to write about. So what is compressed air all about? What can go wrong? I had a look around and I found this nice graphic, and I thought, yeah, that probably says it all. Okay, Amy, got it? Georgie as well? Yeah, we'll do so. Right, only compressed air for the purpose it's provided the way it is intended. So that's number one, according to manufacturer's operating manual. Compressed air is good fun. You can sort of scare people and do all sorts of stuff, but you shouldn't. Before using compressed air, inspect equipment, hoses and fittings for damage or faults. Immediately report any issues to your supervisor. Again, very important, and this pretty much applies to anything. So if you use any equipment, electrical equipment, hydraulic equipment, pneumatic equipment, and you're doing a job, even your tools. That's one of the things you should always do is inspect it for any damages. So if anything is not right, anything, PPE, tools, pneumatic, hydraulic, what else? Pneumatic, hydraulic, electrical, any damage to the insulation, to the pipes, to the hoses, to the insulation of tools, to whatever you're dealing with. Yeah. You should report it and make sure it's getting fixed. You shouldn't work with it. Never exceed recommended pressure. So again, important. So normally it's very difficult as well. Most compressor units have got a cracking valve. So if you exceed a certain pressure, it'll just release it and settle down at its design pressure. Don't allow airlines to cross traffic areas. Makes sense as well. So you've got an airline somewhere, tread it on the floor, people trip over it, or somebody drives over it with a truck or forklift or whatever, and the lines get damaged. Now, for pneumatic, it can cause damage, can cause serious damage. It can wound you. Hydraulic, it's much more an issue. If you get injured with an hydraulic system and an hydraulic line, you can lose limbs. You get oil injection injury, and it's very serious. It's very serious stuff. And when you get the injury from oil injection, it'll just look like a little pinprick. But really, what's going on inside your body could result in fingers, arms being amputated, and potentially even death. It's quite serious, and people don't realize how very often how serious it is. Never apply compressed air to skin or clothing. Makes sense as well. You don't want to crack or break your skin. Never direct a stream of air at your own body or another person, including for cleaning, cooling, or joking around. Again, very, very important. You don't know what's inside the compressed air, and it can be just like a bullet. If there's a tiny grain of whatever, it can be propelled, into your body like a bullet and cause an infection and all sorts of stuff. Always wear appropriate PPE. So for eye, face, and so on. Keep hoses clean of grease and oil, and store hoses neatly away from heat sources or direct sunlight. Direct sunlight, you have a problem with UV light. UV light perishes anything made of rubber or plastics or PVC. And so if you've got like your nice reel and the sun is just hitting it every day, all day, you can pretty much guarantee after a couple of years that it's going to be perished, or it's going to be so brittle that it'll potentially break up the pipe and cause problems. Before changing tools or making hose connections, shut off valves and bleed pressure. Very important. The problem is when you work on actuators that sometimes there's a lot of pressure still stored inside the actuator. So when you disconnect them and you don't bleed the actuator, the pressure is still there. So that means you pressing a button, a lever, or whatever, and the actuator could just fling open and injure you, chop a finger off or something. Hydraulic, it's even worse. You've got something which is called accumulators, and they store pressure to ensure that you've got an even pressure through every cycle. It's a bit like a pressure battery. If you remove an actuator, and those things are like a missile. So if you suddenly release a pressure, they could literally be like a bullet and kill people, and it's happened before. So hydraulic systems are they're good and they're straightforward, they're not explosive and all that, but there are a lot of hidden dangers within hydraulic systems which are very extreme, and the pressures you're dealing with, like 100 bars, 400 bars or something, they're absolutely huge, and they can cause serious injury. They're very, very dangerous. Okay, last one, never kid around with compressed air. So that's number 10. So that's just a couple of safety tips. When it comes to the, maybe at your company you've got different rules to the ones you see here. When it comes to the write-up, just mention these points, or mention the points which you've got at work, and give reasons why it's important not to do it. Okay, next one is water. What is potable water? How can water be made safe to drink? How can you be infected by Legionella? What is the dangerous temperature range for Legionella? Okay, back to you guys. The floor is open. Give me the answer straight away. I realize we are at 14:52, which I'm sure you want to carry on. So give me some answers. What is potable water? How can water be made safe to drink? How can you be infected by Legionella? What is the dangerous temperature range for Legionella? Okay, right, got it. Potable water is drinking water, spot on. Georgie, 20 to 50 degrees, yeah. That's right as well. I think it's 25 to 51 degrees. That's a safe range, but I guess it depends on which book you pick up. They all come up with different results. Water that is safe to drink, okay. Have you got any others? Okay, how can you make water safe to drink? What can you do to try? Okay, Legionella is airborne, so you can get it just by being around the tongue that has bacteria in the tongues open, yeah? That's it, yeah. It's airborne. What about drinking? Okay, boiling and filtering, that's okay. What about drinking Legionella infected water? Is it gonna kill you or give you Legionella? Legionella, by the way, is it can kill you, but it's unlikely to kill you. It's more like a flu symptoms. Unless you, it's a bit like Corona, unless you've got some underlying issues, it can kill you. Can you drink Legionella infected water without getting infected? Or will it infect you straight away? Okay, yeah, that's right, yeah. So water droplets which go into the lungs, thanks Georgie. Water droplets which go into the lungs are, and this is through breathing it in. So when you've got cooling towers and things like that, and you've got water vapor in the air which is infected with Legionella, that's basically how the disease is transmitted. If you drink it, the stomach acid normally kills off all the bacteria, and it doesn't get into your system normally. I mean, I'm sure there are exceptions. I wouldn't suggest, if you know water's got potential for Legionella, don't drink it. Right, the next one is the answer is potable water is drinking water, can be made safe through heating to kill off bacteria or filtering. Legionella infection occurs through breathing the infected water droplets, and water temperature should be kept below 25 and above 51 degrees. Yeah. So, and again, as I said before, when you look at all these Legionella tables, it depends what book you read. So the idea is, if water is pretty warm, room temperature and a bit above, it's a problem. Once you heat it up and it goes over 51 degrees, it's okay. So if you have like a cup of tea and you're not sure about the water, whether there's an issue with the water, as soon as you put the kettle on and you boil it for some time, it pretty much kills it straight away. When you look it up, you don't have to. I mean, you can do it for the assignment. You can look it up there are some temperatures as well. I think on Wikipedia there's one table and it shows you that when you go up to 60, 70 degrees, it's like 2.5 minutes to kill all the bacteria. If you go higher, it's a bit less. If you go a bit lower, it takes a bit longer, and so on. So there are some tables about how to deal with Legionella. Okay, right. Thanks, Brad. For that. Okay, and this is the last question for today. What is the purpose of a permit to work? Can you tell me, why do we have a permit to work? And I don't think I've got answers here. Actually, I need to give you some other questions as well. Okay, let's do it like this. I'm going to close the talk here. I'm supposed to give you questions every day, and I'm kind of thinking I've given you questions, but nothing to take away. Just a paragraph, for this afternoon. If you can write me, why do we have a permit to work system? And if you write it, keep it. Ideally, email it to me and upload it to the system. The questions we've got. If you go, I'm going to save it, and it's going to be on YouTube. The questions you've answered before, we've had before. Let's have a look. What have we got? We've got three-phase power, so on. Don't know. No. Right. This is what I want you to do, and then you've got one job done. You can use it straight for the more or less for the assessment. Explain to me how this switch works. Yeah, and I've given you a brief explanation. Amy and Georgie, I'm going to give you a quick write-up as well, where I go through it step by step. Actually, I'm going to give it to all of you. So I'm going to do a quick write-up, just in a couple of bullet points, and I want you to do your own write-up based on this. Yeah. And then upload it to one file. Please email it to me as well, and then answer me the question about this one here. What is the purpose of a permit to work? Why do we have permits to work? Just a paragraph or something, and then that's all for today. Tomorrow I'll not be with you. Tomorrow is Tuesday, so I'll not be with you. I'll be back with you on Wednesday morning, I think. And then we've got one more presentation so it's one in the morning, and then in the afternoon I'm going to show you the assessment, and then talk you through the assessment, and then that's it really. Then I'll let you loose on the assessment. I have to talk to Gary whether to just give you time to finish off the assessment as soon as possible, and then do the grading, talk you through, and make sure you've got everything in the pipeline. Or whether to just carry on straight away and cover the next units, which we need to deal with, which I think will be 315, to go into 315. Right, and that's all. Any more questions? Make sure when work is done safely. Okay, Hayden, that's spot on. A bit more than that as well. So think about the whole context. About permit to work, why is it important to have a permit to work, and elaborate a little bit on this as well. Okay, on this note, I shall let you go. Have a wonderful afternoon. It's lovely weather out here in Yorkshire. Not quite sure what it's like where you are. A bit windy. I think it's not that warm. And anyway, I'll see you on Wednesday. Yeah. I'm going to do a quick write-up, just some bullet points. But what I want you to do I'm just going to go back one moment. For this one here, what I want you to do is a more detailed write-up. Yeah. So I'm going to give you a bullet-pointed one, just elaborate on it, and then should be okay. Should be enough for the assessment. Right. On this note, what's the time? Hey, we're in time. I thought it was about 90 minutes to do this, but we did it in 60, which is good. That's fine. So I'll end the stream on this note, and I'll see you on Wednesday. I'll just keep it going for a moment in case you've got any comments, and then I'll press the end button. Okay, thanks, Charlie. Georgie, Baden. Right. Yeah, Brett, I did get the email. I thought I'd answered you. Did you not get an answer? Brett, I'm just going to check into it. I thought I'd answered it, but I'll just quickly check what it is. Okay. Okay.